can hold these polls on Saturday. What time does INEC have a time frame by which they think that if all the boxes have not been ticked, because I want to imagine that when you're planning logistics, there are things that you must have indicators that would let you know if you'll really be set for polls on Saturday. At what point will INEC have looked at their planning to say this will not be possible on Saturday?
Most of the materials have been delivered in all the states. Most of them have been delivered. The ones that were not delivered were on their way to being delivered. But the time frame for getting there was what the problem. Like I said, you know, these were areas that could have been serviced by air.
Let me give you, exactly. So let me give you an instance. If by Friday, or excuse me, by during the week, by midweek, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, you see that the weather is bad, the only other way to transport these things there is long haulage. And you know that the road is going to take a while. It's not going to take them, only God knows how long it's going to take the trucks. But you have an idea of how long it's going to take. By that time, shouldn't alarm bells be going off to say, look, we don't think that this is going to be possible? Precisely.
That's what I was trying to explain, that when we discovered that these materials could not be delivered by air, and we saw the time frame.
As at what time? As at Thursday?
Now, about a week, about a few days to the elections, right? You know, I said something. We have 6 zonal airport hubs that we created. And you know how large this country is. We have zones. We have Abuja, we have Lagos, we have Port Harcourt, and they have to get to the hinterlands. And some of these places don't have airports where you could land and all of that. So when we discovered that we could not make it the way we had originally planned, for a few areas, we then resorted to these trucks. We don't own these trucks. We don't know their condition, right? They get on the road. But the time it required for them to get there, which we felt they could make it, they could not make it. You know, so that was the problem.
Well, you know, some people will say this conversation is almost as if we're crying over spilled milk, because right now the elections did not hold. The polls have now been shifted. In some states, you were able to make it. Materials did get to the CBN in those states on time. In fact, they're already being deployed. Right. Now, the question is, for those materials that went out, what is the guarantee that, you know, they can be retrieved in good time and in good form and be kept safely for the next elections?
No, we were prepared for that. You know, even after conducting election, we still have what we call reverse logistics. We have to retrieve all the materials, you know, back, you know, to base, and the ones that should go to safe places, secure places will go. The ones that should go to the offices will go there. So I can assure you, all the materials that were deployed have been retrieved, because immediately we couldn't conduct the election. We have resident electoral commissioners, and they were asked to retrieve, and that has been done. I can assure Nigerians. And you know, we also have party agents that are supposed to be present at the CBN, for instance, when we are deploying, when we are distributing these materials, or we want to send them to other places. They check what we have, and they also, you know, append their signatures. So I think there's no problem about materials going astray, as some people think.
So you have not received word from any place that materials have gone astray? Because we're already getting reports from some politicians who are getting agitated over the materials that have already left. They believe that people have been able to spy what some of these things look like, and maybe can make copies, can make fakes.
You know, we live in a country where fake news seems to be a form of thriving business. It's not true. I can assure Nigerians.
Let's quickly go to Lagos now and take some questions.
I'm just wondering, me, when you say that, you know, you needed to move the material to certain areas, is INEC not open to moving the materials to the CBNs in those regions? If you did it a week before, would it affect your plans, or will it put the equipment at risk, given that it will be in the strong room of the CBN in those areas?
Well, you know, there's something that we need to appreciate. This country is vast, and there are limits to what can be done, no matter how much you plan. It's not a question of whether you want to move it a week before or a few days before. We have our deployment plan. And remember, we've conducted a number of general elections since 1999, and we have a template. We're prepared, and we mobilized. but we just needed a window of 24 hours. That was all that we needed. It was unfortunate, but you know, these things happen. We didn't plan for these things to happen the way it happened, but we tried our best. If you see the amount of work that went into planning, into preparing for this, you will appreciate what I'm talking about. But you know, it's just that when you miss one or two things, people tend to now read meanings to all of that. But I can assure you that there was no tardiness on the part of INEC.
Well, yeah, Mr. Rotimi, well, we're not doing this to blame blames. We're just trying to find out, okay, how do we improve and ensure these things don't happen? But of course, INEC would have planned for it, and we acknowledge and appreciate that. But at the moment now, those equipment, or those materials that have not been moved, that you needed the 24-hour window for, where are they now?
Well, I can assure you that the materials have been delivered right now, and they are being sorted out. Yes, they are being sorted out.
Okay, so that is what you wanted to avoid, which eventually has now been done, and that's still a week before the election time. Okay, but let me pick up on something that was raised during that stakeholders engagement between INEC. You know, there were those who raised concerns about the certain technology company that's handling some of the smart card readers deployment, as it were, and configuration. One wonders then, is it because, yes, INEC spoke about it, but there's still those who ask, when the company that INEC hired, the company in question now, is hiding the identity, the ownership from CAC, isn't that questionable? Does INEC still find it comfortable to continue with such a company, having discovered now that the owner of the company, as it were, as they said, is vying for an election under a ruling party?
Well, you know, the one side of the stories that we hear is what you're talking about. But like the INEC chairman said at the stakeholders meeting, this particular company has been doing business with the commission since 2011. So it's not new, you know. I think what is important is our process. In 2011, I'm just saying, maybe the owner of the company was not even a politician. There's no way to know. Well, this has come out here, but what the INEC chairman said, and the assurances he gave, was that our processes will not allow any form of manipulation that is being touted by those who are trying to raise an alarm.
Yeah,
and
but
I can assure you, it's not possible.
Yeah, but you know, Mr. Rotimi, I see where in this climb, where people just want, you know, assurances beyond reasonable doubt. It's one thing for the commission to assure. Don't forget, we're talking about this now because INEC had promised to conduct elections. You did all you can, but it turned out that circumstances made it such that you couldn't continue with the elections. So, in the same breath, they could also argue, just as you said, at the time, he might not have been a politician, but there are new realities. Now, he's found out to be a candidate. Isn't what to do to assure people is that, okay, well, having discovered it, and if he's hiding the ownership of the company, it raises questions. And INEC should have perhaps something that they should reconsider using such companies moving forward.
Let me explain it this way. If a plane is about to take off at the airport, it gets to a stage that you can no longer abort the flight.